Good morning and welcome to Trader Minute. Great to have you aboard. Good morning and
Looks
welcome
like
to Trader Minute. Some of you have been able to log in, hopefully without any issues here into the new platform. Let's go out. Let's talk market, and then as we kind of get into the market and have a little downtime, we'll talk about the site, talk about some of the different features, things that are there. I apologize. I'm told I'm getting some pretty bad feedback here. Give me 1 second. Pretty bad feedback here. Give me 1 second. Pretty bad feedback here.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, let's see if the feedback is better there. The echo is better.
Yep. You're good.
Okay. All right. Looks like we're good to go. All right. Let's take a look. I have the chart of futures up here. Market yesterday closed. Futures started to tick lower here, and they started to fall during the China market. China was down pretty big last night, over 1%. Some selling hit in there. We had the European Central Bank come out around 4 or 5 this morning. They basically did what our Fed has been doing, nothing. Basically trying to control the markets with their words and saying, hey, you know what, we're just going to keep easing. They did announce that they're going to do some stress tests for the banks there in Europe, and that would be going on during the month of November. So we'll see what that is. So far, any of the stress tests that have been done have really been, you could argue, very manipulated and simply to garner confidence with the markets. Futures have rebounded just a little bit here. Some really nice earnings. Okay, some really nice earnings out of Boeing. Some really ugly earnings out of Caterpillar. Okay, and with both of these stocks, I mean, we've seen what the trends have been. The earnings trends for Boeing have been really solid and pushing higher. The earnings trends for Caterpillar, while Caterpillar shot up into earnings, the earnings were abysmal. And Caterpillar CEO has been on TV here a little bit this morning trying to defend the quarter, talking about the industry, basically just talking about how bad it is for mining and mining stocks right now. I'm very interested in the reaction on Caterpillar stock here today and how that plays. You can see by this 1 minute chart of Caterpillar, you can see that it's kind of a deep drop from 89, almost 90, down to 84. I'm curious to see what the reaction. Do we see buyers step in on the bad news here? Caterpillar still has its buyback, and it should, we'll see if they're going to step in and buy it on this dip, or if they're going to let Caterpillar drop back down to the $80 level. Okay. Starbucks CEO on CNBC here this morning. Don't think that's going to be a big deal. He'll be talking with Jim Cramer if he hasn't already. Sorry, I turned off the stream, but we'll see what that does. Overall, Starbucks here trading down just a little bit in the pre-market as stock futures are down. So not really a big deal that we're gonna really worry about this morning. The TLT, okay, bonds opened up or this morning we're trading a bit higher. They've come off a little bit. They're trading at about 108 right now on the TLT, so set to open up fractionally. Just not a big deal there. And then AUY, gold, okay, the price of gold here, I'll show that to you, has been trickling lower all night. And we talked yesterday, AUY, maybe a little overdone in the real short term, might have a little bit of a rest here today. It's set to open up about 7 to 10 cents lower, which for gold being down where it is about what we would expect. So nothing there to react to on the open. Okay. Now, as far as trade setups here on the open for this market, there are a couple things, and the thing I find the most interesting is the XLE. Okay, the XLE. the energy sector. And I talked about this yesterday, how we've seen oil prices dropping. Okay, let me bring up oil prices for you. We've seen oil prices dropping tremendously. Broke below 100 on Monday, continued below 100 yesterday, and right now are trading down in the 96 level. So we've seen a tremendous sell come into the price of oil. But in general, we've seen the energy sector hold up very well with the market. Okay, when we've seen this type of action in the past, we tend to get some breakdowns in the energy sector. This is one form of divergence or negative divergence where we have the underlying asset going a different direction as the major ETF. And that tends not to bode well for the major ETF. So if you're looking to get short out there, the XLE is one of my favorites. From a candlestick challenge standpoint, I am looking at potentially getting in. We have the spinning doji on it yesterday, followed by a gap down here this morning set to come in. I want to see where the option prices open up and where we potentially get a good entry. But as we're 15 to 30 minutes into the market open, and we don't see the buyer step in and just buy this market up like we've seen pretty much, on every market dip, morning dip. I'll look at this XLE and look to play that lower, at least back down towards the 84, 84 and a half level on the XLE. So that to me is one of the most interesting setups here on the open. We do have some setups here with Goldman Sachs. We talked about Goldman Sachs. Get a little bit of a gap down yesterday. It sold off into the close. So we do have a bearish dark cloud candle here at the close yesterday. That's being followed by a small gap down here this morning. In fact, wow. Gap down is going to be much greater than it was a little bit earlier. You'll notice Goldman Sachs here set to gap down into the 157 area. That's a little bit extreme for what we're seeing. That's a little tough to chase right here on the open. So I probably will stay away unless we get a little rebound on it to sell into there on Goldman Sachs. You'll see the price of oil over here down almost $2 to 96.40, just getting routed there. Netflix, okay, Netflix a real hard sell yesterday as it went from 396 all the way down to 308 this morning at one point. After the bell, yesterday it was announced that Carl Icahn sold 50% of his stake in Netflix. So you can see why, you would have such selling pressure yesterday. Down here at 317, it's just not something I would really want to mess with a normal type trade. If you're in for an all or nothing type of a thing and want to play with it, fine. But as far as any directional bias right here, it's probably lower. But for this thing to move $10 one way or the other in a matter of 10-15 minutes, still not out of the realm of possibility for Netflix. Okay. All right, so we have the market opening up right here. We're looking at the TLT opening up about 15 cents, market down about 6 points. Starbucks getting about a 47-cent haircut here this morning. AUY down to that $10 level. Let me show you what AUY looks like here. Okay, we talked about a little bit overbought yesterday, giving a little bit of harami action here on AUY. You'll notice that during upticks, that's not uncommon. Just look back here in August. During the uptick, not uncommon to see, a small morning gap down. The bottom line is gold is still in a very bullish position. And so it's not something I'm going to react to here for AUY here on the open. Starbucks, okay, down about 60 cents. but look at the chart. You see what that looks like. We're still in the upper band. Okay, it may get a little bit of a haircut today, but overall, Starbucks, as long as it holds on to 80 here, closes above 80, still in a very good trajectory in general here. TLT, okay, up about 20 cents. Look, as far as the individual movements, the 50-cent movements here and there, they're insignificant with TLT. The fact that it's up here at 108, great. Okay, still chugging along with the position. I saw a lot of bearish commentary on the TLT yesterday, and don't quite get it. In fact, most of the arguments I strongly disagree with, but overall the short-term trend remains higher here on the TLT, and yeah, it may fall a little bit here today, but overall we're still looking for this to move up into the 110, and potentially, depending on what the market does, up into the 114 level. Aaron, you ask, would I get into AUY right here? No, and the reason being, okay, is the hourly chart. Okay, you'll notice the gap down below the 7, which isn't necessarily bearish, but we've been setting new higher highs and higher lows. But if it comes down to about 980 and 990 and starts to firm in that area a little bit later today, then I would look to add into AUY. But I think you may have 10 to 15 cents lower on AUY there this morning. Okay. Let's take a look here at Goldman Sachs. Okay, you'll notice the gap down here this morning. I'm not going to chase it. It's $1.50. It's gapping down to the lower band on the hourly chart. It typically isn't a great place to chase into something on the short side, where, with XLE, yes, it's gapping down into the lower band, but these bands are quite tight. Okay, so I'd be much more apt to chase into the XLE than I would into Goldman Sachs here this morning. And I will be pricing out some of these XLE options as we go. Bottom line is, every morning that we've seen a market dip, we've seen it rip back higher. So far we've just seen futures bleed higher all morning. They're continuing to push a little bit higher on the open, so I don't want to step into that from a short side just yet. Okay. Two earnings reactions that I'm very interested in today. Boeing, whose earnings were just fantastic. They were absolutely fantastic, and from a valuation standpoint, a potential catalyst to send Boeing to 155, 160 from a price standpoint. Okay, and so with Boeing, very good earnings. We'll kind of see where this settles out here today. Caterpillar on the opposite end, just horrific earnings. Big gap down here. Earnings that potentially can take Caterpillar down to $65 or $70 because of the issues that are going on in the mining sector. Okay. Now, speaking of mining, FCX. Okay, FCX. We talked about the potential doji star yesterday. The evening star pattern, that if we got a gap down here this morning, okay, that it would be potentially bearish. One of the things about this morning's gap down, I don't want to chase it yet, because FCX received an upgrade here this morning, had some of its price targets raised. That's been very common in 2013 for there to be a potentially bearish pattern set up on a stock, and what happens? You get analysts that come out and defend it and start to push it up. So I want to see where it reacts today. If FCX is able to end below 36, I think we have a good setup to trade it lower. But if it's still trading above 36, it's really tough to get short on that. Okay. Yeah, Kihu. Okay, Kihu yesterday, rough day for it. as a lot of these Chinese stocks started to turn and push lower. Breaking the 7 here this morning, danger zone. Uh, as far as these go, you really want to see Kihu hold on to this 87 level. It really starts to, break 87 and move into 86. It's a little tough to be long just knowing some of the dangers there. These stocks move tremendously. I mean, Kihu's gone from 96 down to almost 86 in a matter of, 2 days, where, it jumped from 75 to 95 in a matter of 2 weeks. So they're going to be quite volatile. Short-term movements a little tougher there. But this is a place where if the market recovers, we should potentially see some buyers come into the Baidus, the Kihus, the Sohus, and the Sinas. They're all on a little bit of short-term support, except for Sina. But Kihu, Baidu on some short-term support. Really need to see that hold. If it starts to break these levels, could get pretty ugly pretty fast. Yeah, John, Cat horrible earnings, lower guidance for 2014. I mean, the CEO came out. He couldn't even put a positive spin on it. He tried, but he really couldn't put much of a positive spin on that at all. And here's Aetna. Aetna getting sold pretty hard. Talked about potential of shorting Aetna yesterday. Getting sold really hard here on the open. Everything set up for a trend rider bear signal here on Aetna. As a potential trade there. So, these are some things we're going to be looking at over the next 25 to 30 minutes to see if we get a decent entry with those. As far as the broader market, is this bearish? No. This morning gap down so far for the broader market isn't bearish. It's actually a little bit more on the bullish side, because if it's able to hold where it's only going down 7 or 8 points, it starts to firm. The more that it just kind of has these more kind of flat days where the range of the market isn't as great, the more bullish that is. The more volatile the reactions is to the upside or to the downside, the more bearish that is. In fact, yesterday, that was a lot of movement. But if it's able to kind of just settle out here around 1750, consolidate in between around 1740 and 1760, that still favors the bulls in many aspects. Okay. Again, we're looking for signs of reversal. So far, there just aren't many. There are some more coming in. They are growing. Some of the reversal signs are absolutely growing, but still, from a broad market standpoint, we don't quite have that. We have earnings, a lot of earnings that have come out today. Just here on my list, I'm just kind of scrolling through, and you can kind of just see all the different earnings. So I'll be spending a lot of my day going through some of these various earnings, looking at the reactions, kind of just trying to get a feel for what's going on there in general. A real nice pop here this morning for GLW. For Corning, as they've made a deal here with Samsung. I would hesitate to buy this. Okay, I would really hesitate to buy this Corning right here on this news. Yeah, Brad, what grade would you give to the overall earnings thus far? From my standpoint, it's been a pretty typical earnings period. It hasn't been overly bullish. It hasn't been overly bearish. It's been kind of lukewarm, right down the middle. You have some really, really good stories. You have some really ugly stories that are coming in here. It's not an earnings period that was expected to be explosive. As far as what do I really think as far as where things are going to go, it really comes down to guidance from some of the larger companies that I look at. And those guidances have really been mixed at this point. It's really been mixed, and so there's not really a catalyst to send it one way or another based on the earnings so far. We basically from the earnings we know there's really little economic growth, but it's a prime operating environment for some of the companies that are out there. But really, give it just average, just an average ho hum earnings season. Nothing too extreme for either side there. Okay. And frankly, average and ho hum and little growth, that's been favoring the bulls all year. That has absolutely been favoring the bulls, well, since 2009. Okay. Alrighty. So we'll kind of look at some of these as they play out here this morning. We do have Starbucks and AUY bouncing off their lows nicely here this morning. TLT up about a quarter this morning. Some of the home builders still getting a lift in them. The XLE not bouncing this morning. I think that's very telling. We get the XLE that's not able to rally during any of the market upticks today. That'll set up very nicely for us. One earnings report, very interested to go and read this morning. Canadian Pacific. Okay, they're a railroad. I like to look at these railroads. I think the railroads can give us a really good tell on things. You see the reaction on Canadian Pacific, much more bullish than CSX, which we talked about before. So I will talk about Canadian Pacific as the day unfolds here. Okay. Alrighty, so anyway, that's kind of the market setup this morning. Could it turn really bearish, give some really strong bearish entries? Absolutely. The Aetnas of the world, the Humanas of the world are some of the best set up there. The Microns of the world. Micron, is one of my absolute favorites here. Then the XLE. To the downside, we should get some pretty good entries in these today. In regards to Starbucks, okay, down 20 cents here. Just the buyers continue to step into it. TLT up a quarter, nothing to react to, and AUY, down 7 cents is just very very nominal and not worth. Not even really worth mentioning overall. All right, well, thanks for hopping on. I will be back on here very shortly, just talk about the new site just a little bit, and we will talk to you later. Take care.